The interpretation of narratives is to some extent subjective, because everyone can experience art differently. At the same time, using literary analysis, we can still explain the most reasonable meanings that the artist meant to convey or that the audience is likely to understand.
Wait, I recognize this.
To understand themes of any work of art, however, spoilers are involved. Heavy spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning. The Alters, the narrative survival management game by 11-Bit Studios, is an evolution of the This War of Mine formula that focuses on combining both classic and emergent storytelling in stronger and more cohesive ways. While procedural games can have too many permutations, the Alters does an excellent job of allowing the players to tell the story the way they want to tell it, while still maintaining strong and coherent themes throughout the game. Even though everyone playing this will have slightly different experiences due to the alters they choose and the way they solve conflicts, I am fairly confident that there are two main sets of themes that persist through all branches of the narrative. In this video, part 1, we are going to explore the idea of branching life paths and answer the question, what can the Alters of Jan Dolski teach him about life choices? The first theme of the Alters related to choices is a kind of question, whether or not life choices are predetermined or consequential.
How did I end up here? My whole life, all its ups and downs, led me to this place.
While there are many ways to phrase this is a classic philosophical and even theological question of whether life choices are meaningless because everything is predetermined, or whether people have real agency, free will to choose and impact their own lives. The game sets up this question from the opening moments in Jan's monologue.
Was this path just a random sequence of events that I had to follow? Or was there ever another way?
The possibility that fate is predetermined is highlighted by the fact that all the other members of Jan's expedition are killed, with Jan seemingly spared by extraordinary and almost unbelievable chance. This theme of a predetermined fate is also developed through some of the Chris and Jack movies. In one Chris and Jack movie, People Who Always Finish Your Sentences, Chris and Jack can finish each other's sentences in a way that is goofy but seemingly suggesting that what they will say is already predetermined, reminiscent of a scene from God of War Ragnarok. This method of supporting the idea of predetermined fate is repeated in Jan's stranger experience.
Why are you doing that? Cut it out.
Another way that this theme of predetermined fate is developed is through the idea that some things are inevitable no matter what choices you make. In another Chris and Jack video, Future Ex-Girlfriend, this aspect of the theme is also touched upon, an inability to avoid the fate that the ex-girlfriend will break up with the inventor and start dating the nice guy from the future. In fact, something that is not really focused on but is pretty explicit is the fact that all of the Alters' paths always end up with them joining Project Dolly, suggesting that no matter what choices Jan made in his life, he would have ended up on the expedition, which answers the question he asked at the beginning.
Do you really believe that? That you're the architect of your own fate? What if deciding, making choices was never anything more than just an illusion?
Despite setting up so much about the apparent meaninglessness of decisions due to determinism, the game also continues to advocate for agency, suggesting that the branching paths and memories of the Alters proves that choices are real and meaningful.
My choices are real. My alters are proof that.
Impactful decisions are also inherent in the game structure itself. There are many decisions that the players can make that significantly affect the story told at various points, with choice and consequence gameplay including several different endings that does in fact show that the choices do matter. In the Bible, there are many examples of both deterministic sovereignty of God as well as free will, such as in the book of Joshua. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Joshua chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. In this passage, we see that God has predetermined that Joshua will succeed in bringing the Israelites into the promised land, yet at the same time warns him that there are consequential choices that he has to make in terms of choosing to obey the law of Moses to ensure his success. Like Joshua, Jan acknowledges both the sense of fate as well as his personal agency in the choices he makes. Choices are not just about obtaining the outcomes that we prefer, however. Instead, the game reminds us that many choices have moral elements, which leads us to our second theme. The second theme for today's video on choices in life highlighted in the altars is that many choices can be morally good or evil, not just in line with outcomes we prefer or not. While this theme does not seem as heavily emphasized as some of the others, it is hinted at from early in the game, when Maxwell tells Jan that he can't be a hero, but he must be a decent man.
You say you're not a hero? Well, maybe I don't need you to be one. Maybe you should just carry on being a decent man, Jan Dolski.
From the prologue, Jan is already forced to make a morally dubious choice. Human cloning is acknowledged to be both illegal and highly questionable from a moral perspective, with Jan reluctantly moving forward with altering the technician, but questioning whether it was the right thing to do.
I have mixed feelings. Sure, it's better to be alive, but I feel like a line's been crossed.
From there, Jan has to continually face the question of whether or not to continue producing alters to ensure the success of the mission. To progress in the game, the scientist and 2 other alters must be produced to get through Act 2. At the end of Act 2, Jan must make more moral choices in order to save his alters from a brain disorder. He must choose between sacrificing a tabula rasa, a so-called blank slate human, to produce an experimental treatment, or using neural implants to control the disorder. The tabula rasa choice is obviously the evil choice, with clear parallels to human organ trafficking and abortion, with Jan sacrificing an alter to save the rest.
We need a brain tissue donor that can be sacrificed. So we're making sure it's not an actual person like us.
The neural implants choice is also fraught with the possibilities of a lifetime of imprisonment, experimentation, or even death.
And get full access to their brains. Do you realize how vulnerable it would make them?
In Act 3, Jan must decide how to deal with his alters. He can trust the fate of the alters to the soldiers in Agatha, he can lie to the soldiers and kill them with explosives, or he can lie to them and gas them as a non-lethal act of defiance. There may be even more options if you side with Maxwell, but I did not. In the Bible, the book of Amos highlights the idea of morality in choices. Seek good and not evil, that you may live, and so the Lord, the God of hosts, will be with you, as you have said. Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate. It may be that the Lord, the God of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of Joseph. Amos chapter 5, verses 14 to 15. In this passage, the prophet Amos warns the people of Judah to always make moral choices. Christians should choose good and hope for mercy from God rather than make choices based on selfish outcomes. Like Amos suggests, Jan must make moral choices, deciding whether he wants to do good or evil. The morally good choices fit the narrative particularly well as a redemption arc because the game portrays Jan as a sort of loser who has made a series of poor choices in his life and is attempting to learn from those choices, which is our third theme for today's video. Our third theme on life choices for today's video on the altars is how we can learn from our poor choices, which is a heavy focus of the game. The way that this looks for each player's playthrough will depend on the altars that you chose throughout the game, because the theme is mostly developed through a thoughtful look at branching paths between the real Jan and where many of the altars made better choices in their lives. As Jan discusses commonalities with his altars, he discovers what decisions his altars made that he regrets, his what-if moments that seem to be the crux of the narrative. From the technician, Jan realizes that he should have stood up to his father when his father was being abusive towards his mother. From the scientist, Jan discovers that he could have really developed his cognitive skills and academic abilities if only he had chosen to continue studying over finances.
Wait, you mean the one we had in our pocket? But lost in the final round, yes. I took that hard. So did I. But it motivated me.
From the doctor, Jan learns that he could have been a positive impact on society if only he had had the courage to help a girl from being robbed by thieves.
Yeah. You went after them. I didn't.
From the botanist, Jan learns that he could have had a happy marriage and even been a father if only he had put his family above his ambitions. While this idea of reflecting on past life decisions is sometimes referred to pejoratively as navel-gazing, it's clear that Jan is trying to learn from past mistakes, from poor and maybe even evil choices that he made in order to be a better person. This self-reflection is something that the Bible encourages, such as in the book of Isaiah. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your deeds from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good. Seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. Isaiah chapter 1, verses 16 to 17. Just as the prophet Isaiah tells Judah to repent and learn, Jan Dolski does his best to learn from his mistakes. However, such serious processing of past decisions can come with a lot of regret, and Jan must learn to accept how his decisions have shaped him, which is related to our last theme for today's video. Our final theme for today's video on life choices in the Alters is that of how bad choices can still be used for good. The climax of the game's story seems to be Jan's realization that he should not have so many regrets because even poor choices can still lead to good outcomes. This new perspective is what is supposed to help Jan be more accepting of his poor past decisions. Jan's divorce with Lena is how she is in a position to help him on his expedition, rather than being pregnant at home and not able to help him. Maxwell's destruction of his own life is how he is later in a position to bring positive change to Lucas's life.
Bottom line for me is, if it weren't for that horrible accident and Maxwell's loss, I would probably have had a much more miserable life.
Lucas's own failure to help those Maxwell's experiments were hurting is what catalyzes him to help the Alters at the expense of his own job and legal liability. Jan crossing the line of human cloning is how he is able to save himself and the Rapidium, ending a global food shortage. Jan's poor handling of the technician and the other rebels is what allows them to save the base by following the Tur vehicle's guiding light when the rebels leave the base.
Maybe it's not you who needs to change, but your perspective.
The game goes as far as to suggest that if a mistake results in a positive outcome, then it's not really a mistake. In my humble opinion, I don't think the Bible goes quite that far. Mistakes are mistakes, and sins are sins. Nonetheless, the Bible does suggest something similar in the book of Romans. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom he predestined, he also called, and those whom he called, he also justified, and those whom he justified, he also glorified. Romans chapter 8, verses 26 to 30. Just like how God can redeem mistakes and use them to still produce good, Jan learns to be more accepting of the mistakes he has made by looking for the silver lining in the clouds.
It was very comforting.
While I think that Christianity agrees with this idea, the key difference is that Christians believe that this occurs because of the sovereignty of God, leading back to our first theme of predetermined fate. The Alters, while a video game whose gameplay is nothing special, is still fairly special in its premise and the way that it tells its story and explores its themes. The game uses a lot of the usual literary devices, but it also uses more unusual devices like the Mind Record, the Alters themselves, and the Chris and Jack movies to support the meanings that it wants to convey. In this video, part 1, we explored different themes of life choices developed throughout the narrative. In the next video, part 2, we will take a look at themes of relationships that can connect to the audience. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.